Hey! Sorry, we're back with another video. Andrew Wilson makes Soyboy feminist realize his argument makes no sense. Let's get it. Let's go.
I already said because people should protect those who are weaker than them. Once again, claim that I'm stipulating. If you disagree and don't think those who are stronger should use that to protect those who are less strong, then I guess this doesn't follow. But I think that's a pretty strong intuition that most people hold.
Let's make sure that you hold this intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, would you consider like a 13-year-old boy to be a child?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with me that 13-year-old boys can be about as strong as the average woman?
Sure. I would depend. I'm not sure.
So should 13-year-old boys give up their seats on the lifeboat for women?
Maybe it's a case-by-case dependent basis. I think you should try to save women and children. Because
Should a 13-year-old give up their spot in the lifeboat for a 70-year-old woman?
No, because
No?
I think there's a longer lifespan. Wait, Andrew, this is what you did.
Yeah, here we go.
No, this is what you did. I'm gonna explain what you did.
Uh-huh.
You took one categorization that I made and general prescription.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not consistent,
That
bro.
those who are stronger should generally protect those who are weaker. That's what I said. And you're saying, so in every single case where there's someone who's stronger, they should protect someone who's weaker overriding consideration.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Andrew does. He pinpoints one scenario to argue and say that your argument doesn't fit logic, but it really does in the general statement, in a generalizing view. Of course, you can't. Overwhelmingly, I guess I'll say it like that. That's how it would go. But there are some exceptions to the rules, and he pinpoints always on the exception to the rules, and that's what makes the conversation like sometimes boring too, because they're not really good arguments. Of course, the strong should protect the weak. Of course.
Did I not say general?
No, you actually just said that stronger people should protect weaker people.
Okay, then I meant that in the general sense. I'm sorry for not specifying.
So generally speaking then, men are going to be disadvantaged in society under your view.
I don't think they're going to be disadvantaged because they have the advantage of more strength. So then using that strength to protect others.
Yeah, but you're prescribing a duty. You haven't actually told me why it is. So for instance, do you agree that men and women's lives are equally valuable?
Equally valuable? Yeah.
Okay, then why the fuck would you say that they should give up their spots in the lifeboat because they're stronger?
Equally valuable, because I think if you were talking about a boat sinking, I think most men would probably be better able to swim longer, be able to
in the icy fucking waters of the fucking... Are you serious? Of the icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean, they're going to have a better fighting chance against the sharks? Like, what are you talking... What?
Wait, hold on. Andrew.
Come on, bro.
Dude.
This is fucking crazy.
No, there were... Andrew, are you not agreeing with me? Who do you think would survive longer in the icy water?
I think you're talking about seconds.
I'm optimizing my Amazon PPC campaigns, but I could use a little help with AI.
Minutes, perhaps.
Okay. And if there were rescue boats going by?
There's not rescue boats. There wasn't rescue boats going by,
well, I'm glad we're not in that situation anymore.
Yeah, but I'm asking you about that situation. You said they should give up their spots on the Titanic, that women get the lifeboats because the men are stronger, even though their lives are both equally valuable. Yes. Why?
I think that some men should do that. Absolutely.
Why?
Why? Because you should want to protect those who are weaker than you.
Why though? Why though? If it's just a matter of you saying because you're stronger, then you switch. What you're doing is switching your case use here, which is fucking. It's equivocation. It's pissing me off because it's not even genuine. You're making the equivocal case that wait a second, right? Men generally are stronger than women, so therefore should protect them because generally stronger people should protect weaker people.
Yes.
Okay, that follows in that aspect. You're a bit stronger, right?
Yes.
You have some sort of like duty or obligation to protect those weaker than you. But when you're in a situation like the fucking Titanic, right, where your strength differential doesn't fucking matter at all, right? You still prescribe that the women get the lifeboats, bro. And I need you to tell me why.
Why should they get the lifeboats? I think I am then expressing an intuition based on that case that is based on the fact that men are generally stronger than women. So maybe
how is that helpful?
Hold on. Maybe in this case, then they shouldn't, because this case doesn't involve strength or anything like that. So in this case, then maybe not. In the Titanic, In that case, then yeah, maybe
Okay,
not.
so you're retracting that?
Yeah, I'll
Okay, so you're gonna
retract the claim
retract
for
that.
women. I'll retract the claim for they should give it up for women. Maybe not children though, because children would have a longer lifespan ahead of them. And men and women's lives, I would agree, are roughly equal. But you can argue that children's lives, many people would consider them more valuable because they have a longer life to live.
Okay, so then men don't have an obligation to sacrifice their lives for women.
No.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Got it. They don't have.
I don't think each individual man. I think society has an obligation to protect those who are weaker, but I think that no individual person should be compelled to risk or like.
Well, I didn't say
their
compelled.
life.
I asked about duty.
That doesn't
That
correspond.
would be
Men.
like a foreign compellence.
No, I don't think men have that duty. No.
They don't have that duty.
Men in general, no. Those who are stronger, not to die for other people necessarily.
So you don't think that there's a social obligation inside of society which shames men if they don't protect women who are physically weaker than them?
I think there is, but the thing is also I think a man is much less likely to die than a woman in those situations.
Yeah, so what?
So then it's much
But he's
less
much more likely to be shamed for not interjecting himself in the situation, which would mean that he actually would be more likely to die than
And I
the
think
women.
it's because he's stronger.
Yeah, but that actually would increase his risk of death over women.
All right, Andrew.
And the average man would increase the risk of death if they're interjecting more than women. Yeah.
Sure. What's your point?
Is that correct?
Yes. What's your
Okay,
point?
so then you're assisting with a bias against men,
No.
with a social shame of men. Do you think that men, because of the stronger sex, should interject on the behalf of people who are weaker than them?
If they are stronger.
If they're strong, and on
Yes.
average they're going to be.
Yes.
Then what you're doing is interjecting them into significant amounts of danger over the weaker sex.
It's not on the basis that they're men. It's on the basis that they're stronger.
Yes,
So
but
it
the
would
bias
apply-
selection.
So what's his argument? That men shouldn't protect women? Is that his argument?
apply
It
to
would-
men?
Fine, so it would apply. So are you endorsing disparate impact theory here? I'm just really
What is
confused
disparate
here.
impact theory?
The idea that if something overwhelmingly affects a group, then therefore it ought to be considered, prejudice or harm against that group. So, for example, if a policy was passed and it overwhelmingly, disproportionately affected a racial minority or any minority, regardless of the intent
No,
of the
I would
bill,
endorse that, but what I will say is that...
well, this is the type of
no,
disparate
it's
impact.
not. Here's why. Here's the distinction, right? Do you agree with me that people can hide their true intentions towards a thing, right, by kind of equivocating based on their intention? So, for instance, if I said, look, okay, this isn't a bias against midgets, but I just think that people who are 3 feet and below shouldn't work in Hollywood, right?
Okay.
I'm not biased against midgets, though, right? I'm universally applying that standard to all people, but who does it disproportionately affect the
Yeah,
most?
it does affect them. But
Now, hang on. If I held a bias, a secret bias against midgets, I really fucking hated them, right? Would that be a really good way for me to enact my will, my hatred towards those midgets by making that universal claim that all people 3 feet and under shouldn't work in Hollywood?
Sure, but Andrew, what would the benefit be of banning those people from
I'm
working
just
in
saying
Hollywood?
things like they can't get hurt as easy.
Can't get hurt
Yeah,
as
people who
easily.
are 5 feet and are above, they don't get hurt as easy as people who are 3 feet and below.
And I think
especially when you're on Hollywood sets and things like that.
If you were making then standards that were, I mean, we have this. Do you think it's prejudicial?
It would universally apply to all people.
Do you think it's prejudicial that we hate children because
No.
we have
What I'm saying-
because we have height
Yeah.
limitations on rides at roller coasters?
So hang on.
Is that prejudice?
I'm not
against
making the claim that you can't make even
question.
universalized prescriptions based on safety. I'm asking a specific and narrow question, which is that if I hated midgets, would it not then follow that if I was making prescriptions, right, that seemingly on their face were a bit absurd, seemingly a bit on their face absurd, right, but did universalize them by saying it's for all people, but the inaction of that really was going to disproportionately affect midgets, that it might stand to reason that I had some bias against midgets? Do you think hang on, I'm just saying, this is conditional. Let me look at the camera too. It's just as conditional. But don't you think that if I passed legislation which was disproportionately affect only one group, right? But I was doing it as a universal claim for all, right? That people might think my motivations were to try to disproportionately affect that group. Don't you think that follows?
It could be, but it's not necessarily. I don't think we think men.
Isn't it interesting though that you endorse feminism while at the same
wait.
time having a bias against men because they're stronger?
I don't have a bias against men.
Sure sounds like you do.
I don't. I think that I already said this. I think those who are stronger, regardless of sex, should protect those who are weaker.
Yeah, but again, here's the problem. When you claim that I'm a feminist, right, which you have, and that you're here to defend feminism, isn't it interesting that part of this, kind of like a prescription for society based around feminism is that it just so happens that men need to, of course you don't mean men, you just mean stronger people, but men have to interject and put themselves in harm's way more than women do, and you happen to be a feminist. You don't think people are going to put two and two together and think that, well, perhaps you have a bit of bias towards men?
Bias towards men or bias against men?
Yeah.
No, I don't necessarily think that follows at all.
Okay, why not?
Because I don't think that it means that you hate someone if you think that because...
I didn't say hate. Did I say hate
fine,
or bias?
Fine, Andrew. I don't think that you're
you
biased.
You can fine Andrew,
I don't think that you're biased against someone or a group of people if you think because they have advantages, they should use them to the less well off.
Okay.
Do you think it would? Do you think that like taxing the wealthy is like a bias against rich people?
I think it can be.
So, but it.
Want to start a podcast, but not sure how? Riverside has got you covered. First.
Do you think it necessarily is?
I never said anything about any of this being necessarily the case.
Okay, so it's not necessarily. Fine. Okay,
yeah.
I agree.
And what I said was that people can hide the motivation, and I do think, by the way, using this example of the wealthy, that oftentimes progressives do fucking hate the wealthy and blame them for problems inside of society because they think they're selfish and want to punish them. They want to punish them.
Some people might do that. I'm not denying that they're going to do that.
So the thing is, it's like...
Fine. Then I am in full agreement with you that wanting to punish people is a bad reason for doing that.
So what reward... Okay, so for this duty that is going to disproportionately affect men, but isn't meant to target men, just people who are stronger, what do they get out of this?
What do they get out? I don't think that duties necessitate rewards. For example, I don't think we should reward people for, like, using their strength to benefit others. I just think that's something that you ought to do. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you shouldn't beat your wife. It's like, I didn't beat my wife today. You should give me more money. It's of course not.
Isn't a draft duty which necessarily benefits others based on strength?
I don't agree with the draft because it's compulsory.
Yeah, so is this duty, though. It's compulsory, right? People ought do it, you said? Isn't that a compulsion?
Sure. 100%. But that's a legal compulsion. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be general societal pushes towards certain things, but I don't think it should be legally compelled in which you go to jail or are killed for not joining the draft. But yeah, absolutely. I think that if society is on the brink of collapse or something like that, those who are stronger should step up and try to defend that.
What would the equal female duty to this be?
There's not an equal female duty, and I've had this before. You had the same conversation. There's not an equal duty for those who would
typically be associated that with women have at all?
Yeah, I think so. Same duties that men would have in terms of kindness towards others, being respectful towards others.
Those aren't duties.
Wanting to lift people up. I think it is.
No, it's not a duty to be kind and respectful. We've been disrespectful this whole time. Where's your kindness and duty?
Wait, I think people should be... Okay, Andrew, I'm sorry that I wasn't specific enough in saying that you should be generally kind. I don't think that
generally.
someone... Hold on, Andrew, fine. Wait. When I say people have a duty to be kind, what you interpreted that as incorrectly is you have to be kind all the time, which is not true.
Okay, so you just generally think people should be kind.
I think being kind in general is a good thing.
Yeah, but the strong ought, the strong ought to protect the weak.
Sure.
Ought.
Are they always protecting the weak?
No, but you think they always should.
If that situation arises.
Yes. So that would be always.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a monolithic statement for an ought, but it's interesting how you move between the monolithic situation of your ought when it comes to that, but with the second we get to women, suddenly they don't have any of those monolithic oughts. That's very strange.
Andrew.
They don't because they're not stronger than men. What
other monolithic? Well, there's one thing they can do men can't.
Sure,
what is
reproduce, Andrew.
How come that's not a monolithic ought?
Because they should not have to have children.
Why?
Because we can have a society where people voluntarily have children without forcing them to do so. We can have
a society where men don't voluntarily assist anybody with their strength. What do you mean?
We can have a society where no one voluntarily does that, but I think we can always use incentive structures to get to that.
Yeah, but you said that they ought. If you agree with me that there can be a society in which men are not interceding on behalf of the weaker sex, in this case women or children, right? Why ought they do that?
Why don't they do
Because
that?
it's the right
Why
thing
ought
to
they
do.
do that?
Protect
yes,
women's children?
if women have no compellence for duties for anything, they ought to do.
So hold on. I don't think that you should protect other people because you think you're owed something in return. And that's the biggest problem here. I don't think men should protect women because, like, oh my God, I saved you. Now you have to bear my children. I don't think that's how these things work.
Nobody made that conflation that because you saved a woman, they now have to have your children.
That's where you're going with it, Andrew. God.
Therefore,
He knows where you're going with the point you're trying to make.
Like on the monolithic odd, I'm even willing to be super charitable here and say that you didn't mean every single time, but like in most
He's been
cases,
saying that.
it is the case that men are stronger than women, and so it should intercede on their behalf, right?
Sure.
Right? That would be pretty charitable of me to say, right?
Largely.
Okay, so then if it's the case that women are the only ones who can have children, right? I want you to grant me the same charitability and say, you know what? I'm not saying that all of them ought to have children, okay? But we should make a prescription that they should be moving towards the idea of having children. That's really good for society prescriptively, and that generally speaking, they have a duty to do it.
I think it's a good thing when people have children.
So
including women.
generally speaking, women have a duty to have children.
I think that society has an obligation to keep its population
So
growing.
generally speaking, do
And
women
men.
have a duty to have children?
Yeah, men and women.
Okay, great. So then women, generally at least, have a duty to have kids.
I think that individual women are not subject to this. Because, Andrew, we can have
Oh my
a...
God, you keep changing your position.
No,
I'm going to
I'm
have
not
a
changing.
smoke while Brian lets
All
chat.
right.
Dude. Fuck him. It's like a tube of toothpaste.
Yeah, Andrew got extremely emotional at the end. But I think I think the other guy was being morally consistent with what he was saying. He wasn't saying every time. And I think Andrew's point is, okay, like, what do men get in return for this? You want women to have, you want to have sex. That's basically what it is, so you can make more babies. And I think that both sides had decent points, you know. Sometimes I think Andrew just makes pointless arguments with conversations. But then again, it leads to great conversations. So yeah, I'm out. Peace.